Excellent. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our first Biofibre Special Interest Group. It's so good to see so many friendly faces amongst you and quite a few new faces as well. So thank you very much for making the journey here to join us. And a special thank you to our host today, Harrison Spinks, for laying on this fabulous venue. I'm sure we'll all agree it's really stunning. We look forward to talking more about biofibre in this wonderful venue. Feels like we're at a wedding or something, doesn't it? Anyway, good, lovely. So we've actually got quite a tight agenda to get through this morning. That's so we've got 4 fabulous speakers. We're hearing from Heather Oldfield from Elsons, Jonathan Hunter from Fibre Extrusion Technology, and Sam Baumer from Indie Nature. And Matt and Liam are going to kick off from Harrison Spinks. So that'll take us through the best part of an hour and a quarter. Then we'll have a Q&A session after the speakers, and then we'll go and grab a coffee, and then we'll go into our facilitated discussion groups around 11:45. So we've got an hour in our facilitated discussion groups. You should all have a coloured dot on your sticker, and there's 3 groups, so that indicates which group you're in. And then we'll break for lunch at around 12:45, networking, and then for anyone that wants to go on the tour, the Harrison Spinks fibre plant tour, that's an option from around 1:30 till 2:30. And then we'll aim to wrap up the event around 2:30. So yes, we've got quite a tight agenda there. So a little bit about Biofibre Special Interest Group and how this came about. I've got a slide here, a graphic here, that shows the Grow Yorkshire portfolio of projects across York and North Yorkshire. And you can see here, there's 5 projects. We've got the farm decarbonisation project on the left. We've got the Biofibre group, which is what this event's all about. We've got a ruminant livestock feed event. We've got a precision agriculture event. And the last one is this rural communications project. So this is all being put on by Mark Blakeston at Grow Yorkshire. And he has secured funding through the Shared Prosperity Fund. This is a levelling up fund, I'm sure most of you are aware of. And he was able to get this across the line with the powers that be, the decision makers at the combined authority. And we're delighted that he did, because this allows us to put biofibre on the map in this region. So there is a bit of a focus here for this region, and we don't make any apologies for that, because there's actually quite a lot of the supply chain in this region, from the growers, as you know. We've got Harrison Spinks, we've got East Yorkshire hemp, we've also got a lot of the processors in this region. However, if we're going to develop supply chains around biofibre, as we all know, we can't put regional boundaries in the way. So we have to open up, and of course that is why we're able to extend this event to people beyond the North Yorkshire region. But just to make that point, that the funding is focused more in the North Yorkshire area. So the Biofibre Special Interest Group, what are we all about? We're all about bringing the biofibre supply chain together to explore opportunities and find solutions that meet the quality standards for our construction sector, for our textiles, our biocomposites, and our bioenergy. But it's fair to say that we're focusing more on the construction, textiles, and biocomposites in this group, because others are looking at the bioenergy in a much bigger way. So what are we going to do with our pot of money that our modest sum of money, it has to be said, that we got from the Shared Prosperity Fund? Well, we decided that 4 events would probably be the best way to bring the supply chain together. So we've got our first event here in June, opportunities and challenges across the fibre supply chain. And then looking later in the year, looking at the potential to grow more fibres in the region. So possibly September for that event, possibly before. November, we'll be looking at the infrastructure and accessing the quality fibres that industry needs. And in February, the last of our events, we'll be looking at the research and innovation. What research do we need to improve the quality standards in our fibre that's going to meet the industry specifications? And at each of these events, we'll hopefully host these at different venues across the supply chain. So a big thank you to our steering group, as you can see here along the bottom: Grow Yorkshire, Harrison Spinks, Elsom Seeds, that's us, the Biorenewables Development Centre, that's where I'm based, East Yorkshire Hemp, SHD Composites, Indie Nature, and the York and North Yorkshire Combined Authority. So how did we get here? What came before this to get us to this point? Well, a series of reports and projects that we have been part of with our partners. The one on the left here, a circular bio-based construction in the northeast in Yorkshire, quite a big project put together by Arab and Material Cultures, commissioned by the Northeast and the York North Yorkshire local enterprise partnerships. So that report is online. If anyone wants to get hold of it, we can send you the link to that. The second is this Yorkshire Hemp Supply Chain report. So this was commissioned through Grow Yorkshire, and it was developed by Promar International, the agricultural consultants in Manchester. And this is all about growing the supply chain across Yorkshire. The third is the Hemp 30 project funded through BAYES at the time. It's now DESNES, of course. This was quite a large chunk of work to look at the potential to grow more hemp fibre in this case. There was more of a focus on hemp in the UK. So to grow it from the 80,000 hectares at the time by 100-fold to 800,000 hectares. And what would it take to do that? And what would the landscape look like? And what sort of research would be needed into new varieties, etc. The fourth is this Biomass Connect project, big government-funded project looking at biomass and the potential for biomass across the UK. A number of crop trial sites around the UK, Northern Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, evidencing the value of these biomass crops to the soil, to biodiversity, to carbon, and to the end markets as well. And this one here on the right is the most recent, and this is a project called the Centre for High Carbon Capture Cropping. And again, looking at the science and the evidence for diversified cropping systems and the value that those cropping systems bring to the soil, biodiversity, and end markets. And I'll talk a little bit more about, I've got another slide on that project because it is a really big project. Centre for High Carbon Capture Cropping, we actually have the project director in the room, Lydia Smith. I'm very pleased can join us today. Thank you, Lydia. So this is a DEFRA funded project. We have Amanda as well in the room, thank you. And 5.9 million over 4 years, and we're just into the end of our first year. It's 19 partner project. Can you believe it? Yes, it's a lot to manage there. And this is really looking at the evidence that new diversified cropping systems can bring to the quality of our land and benefiting the soil, the carbon, the biodiversity. And what can we get out of those crops in terms of value, chains? Now, that's the bit I'm particularly interested in, and that's the bit that myself and colleagues are leading on in that project. So lots of growth trials around the country. Heather from Elsom's is very involved in all of this. So if anyone is interested in finding out any more about that project, then you've got all the people in the room to be able to talk to you about that. So I mentioned the 4 different cropping systems in that project. So these are the 4 here. So on the left here, we have the rotational cover crops that we're familiar with, starting to become familiar with. The annual fibre crops, So this is the hemp, the flax that we're more concerned with today, perennial food and feed and forage cropping, and then we have the perennial biomass crops here. So as I said, it's all about evidencing the science behind these cropping systems and what value they bring. These are all the partners involved. If you count them up, I think there's 19 or 20 on there. So NIAB is the lead partner in this project. We have a number of projects. I don't know if there's any. We have some new project partners here, BitRes. So they're all about resins and biocomposites. So they're really interested in fibres and sorry, they're actually resin producers. So their resins would be used with fibres in biocomposites. So that's an interesting development. They're a new partner on the project. LSMCs we're going to hear about in our discussion. And yeah, a number of other key players in this sector. Unite Hemp, probably some of you are aware of. I'm being told I've got to rush. Right. Thank you, Alice. A quick view of the Biorenewables Development Centre, which is where I'm based. This is our site in York, just off the York to Hull Road, the 1079. So this is our unit in here. We've got analytical labs in here, bioprocessing and chemical processing in here. And of course, another site over here where we do demonstration projects. So we're looking at high value compounds from oils in cosmetics and that sort of thing. And we share this with our landlord, actually, Simpson of York. And we've got Mike here from Simpson of York, well-known construction company in the area. Their head office site is here. And various other partners around the site that are so we're starting to build a cluster of businesses that are interested in the bioeconomy and what we're doing. So Azotics is a really interesting company to look at. They're looking at nitrogen fixing from the atmosphere and allowing plants to fix nitrogen without added fertilizers. Really interesting if anyone's interested in that. North East Yorkshire Ecological Data Centre. So for all the ecological surveys for our biodiversity net gain, that's what they're involved with. Bell and Loxton, yeah, company that we're doing some interesting work with around cosmetics. And buildings that are ready for tenants to take a place. So if anyone is interested in space, by all means come and talk to us, talk to Simpson, the landlord, and we'll be happy to have a discussion about adopting some space. So that's us in York. Some work that we do with some of our clients. This is a company called Adaptivate. You might know them down in Bristol. They're producing a really nice range of breather boards. We've done some work around pyrolysis of biomass to improve the performance of their boards. A large project working with the University of Bath, BDC ourselves, and really sort of moving this technology readiness level along from the 4, where they started, to the 7, which is to the commercialization stage. So if you look up Adaptivate, they're really developing their site at the moment. Just a quick message about funding. If there is anyone in the room looking at funding, this is a bit small, I apologise, it's a bit small to see, but we have, under the Farming Innovation Programme, we have 3 new awards coming up in autumn this year. So there's a small R&D project, feasibility study, and a Farming Futures R&D for net zero farming. So if there's any businesses that want to work with farmers that can improve this products and services for farmers, well, for themselves, but also creates the market for farmers to develop into, then it's worth a look. And there's plenty of people to work with in this sector. So here's a slide that shows, I just pulled this small sample together that's involved in the biofibre community. Adaptivate, we've mentioned. Indie Nature, we're going to hear from Sam in a moment. Chimera are here, Amanda and Emma. Tatum, Dan, is, yeah. Ceph Fibre here, looking at cottonization of fibres for textiles. fibre extrusion technology. Jonathan, I think, is with us. Excellent. We're going to find out about their pilot, their processing in Leeds. Growing Group down in the Isle of Wight. So they are again producing insulation materials and growing their hemp. So just to give you an example of the community involved. Bit of a pitch for upcoming events. So we've got a number of events coming up in this sector. So the first 3rd of July composites event that Elson's and Harrison Spinks are putting on. In fact, it could actually be in this room, I think. Yes. 3rd of July, 4th of July, another fibre event with Elson's, and that's looking at a farm, I think, in Staffordshire. Yes, and Uttoxeter, excellent. So it's all about flax farming and harvesting and the benefits of flax. So sign up for that. Great Yorkshire show, of course, 9th to the 12th of July. So there is an innovation zone. So if anyone's interested in showcasing anything around the biofibre sector, come and talk to me and I'll introduce you to Holly Jones from the Yorkshire Agricultural Society. And we'll see if we can get a pitch for that. And just a reminder to sign up for the newsletter for the Centre for High Carbon Capture Cropping project. So if you go on their website, it's carboncapturecropping.com. Then you can get through to the newsletter for that and keep you in touch with what's going on in that project as well. Excellent. So have we got time for a quick video or 20 past? We'll perhaps put this on at the end. We've got a really nice video to show. So maybe we'll put that on over coffee of the installation at the biofibre at BDC. I'll stop that then. Right. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. There's contact details there for myself, Sarah and Alice, if you do want to get in touch. And that leaves me to introduce Matt to talk about Harrison Spinks. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, so yeah, I'm Matthew. I work at Harrison Spinks. I'm the textile production manager down on the Leeds site, and also I look after and run the hemp processing line here at the farm. So a little bit about Harrison Spinks. If you don't already know, we are a family-run company, and we make mattresses for the top end of the market. So Simon, the owner, about 20 years ago, we looked at how we was making mattresses and decided that the best way would be to look at natural fibres, because they wanted to promote a healthy night's sleep. Can be only made on handcrafted, naturally healthy materials. So, was it now 16 years ago? He had this idea that he wanted to buy his own farm, and he sat down at the board, and I think they thought he was a little crazy at the time. Why were we wanting to start growing grass in fields to put in mattresses? But back in the traditional days, a lot of mattresses were stuffed by hemp fibre. So this is where you are today. We've grown now 100 acres, and we also not only grow hemp and flax, but also we look at other natural fibres that we put in mattresses, such as wools, alpaca, mohairs. He's very, very, I suppose he's passionate about a healthy night's sleep. So here we are. So what we do as a company, we home grow luxury fibres. So we have got, as I say, hemp and flax that we actually grow here. We have all our mattresses now are all British wool that are traceable from farms around the country. We also have traceable British alpaca and also mohair, and what's the other one? We look at responsible coir fibre now as well. a little bit, all our mattresses are handcrafted, all individually made, all to order. We don't stock, everyone has been individually made, and we currently do about 300, 400 different ranges throughout the brands. And also we do a lot of innovation. I know this is biofibres, but we also weave our own tick. We produce and design our own spring machines that makes the springs into microcoils that go into the mattresses. We've got our own sustainability team now, and we look at now where about 90% of everything that we produce in the mattresses are all made within the company. So this is a bit of a side, what's inside a mattress. So in the middle here, you've got your traditional core, you've got your microcoils, and then you've got your natural fibres, and of which, if you look at the bottom one, got a pointer and I'm pointing at, there we go, sorry. The bottom one there that is a hemp and flax pad, and which acts as a good insulator. Also, it's good at drawing moisture. It can withhold 10 times its own moisture content per kilo. And also the top pad here. So we do use hemp and flax fibre for the luxury layers. So that's mixed with wool and silk. So it also can be used as a luxury layer. I have actually got some samples down here, which I suppose you can look at later. We've got some samples of mattress pads, and also a firm mattress pad as well, which acts, if you put that instead of a soft pad on the top of the springs, it also acts as different tensions. So some people like a firmer product to sleep on. So that's what the hemp pad can do also. Oh, there we go. So as I say, we're a family-owned business. We have our own farm where we grow the natural fillings. We also weave our own mattress ticking. Now, we've also got, what we've started to do now is we've worked at spinning British wool. So we're spinning British wool into yarn that now goes onto the sleep surface, the actual the mattress tick, what you sleep on. That will be expanding out throughout the ranges now as we change the different ranges from the different companies and work out. So within a few years, we'll actually be weaving all British wool rather than wool from, I think it's South America at the moment. As I said, all our beds are handcrafted, and we pride ourselves is because we're weaving the wool and with a viscose, that we don't add any chemicals to the sleep surface to pass FR certification. So it's a natural, healthy night's sleep. And of course, we also design our own springs, as I said before. So we don't just make the springs, we also design the machines. So we build the machines to make the springs as well. And also we go one stage further back. So we've got a site at Scunthorpe where we have got a wire drawing plant. So we get wire rod from British Steel, and then we draw it down into fine wire all the way from 1.9 mil all the way to 0.65 millimeter to make the microcoils, which then goes onto the spring to make the springs to go into the mattresses. And also we're very proud owners of 3 Kings Awards at this moment in time as well. I will just pass you on to Liam now, because the story, I suppose, starts right here where we are now. Liam's a farm manager, so he'll talk about a little bit what he does here.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. This is the birthplace of the Harrison Spinks mattress. Every other mattress company in the country or even the world, their mattresses will start their life on a construction line or in a factory where they're assembling separate parts to make a mattress. We're a bit different. Our mattresses start their life here on the farm, in the field, usually with me scrambling around on my hands and knees trying to grow crops and rear sheep. So we have 2 farms. We own this farm, Organised Manor, which is a 300-acre farm, split 150 acres arable and 150 acres of grassland. We also have a second farm, which is 85 acres just over the river, and that's an arable unit. So as well as the land that we own, we also have what we like to call a growing co-op. So that's local farmers in the area who grow hemp for us, and we pay them on a tonnage basis. So we're approaching the farmers, or the farmers are approaching us, and then we're paying them for the straw when it's grown, delivered, and retted here on the farm. Slide this way. As well as growing hemp and flax, we also have these beauties on the farm. So we have 2 flocks of sheep, a flock of mules, and a flock of rare breed Wensleydales, which we have here. And we'll also be at the Yorkshire show this year, Helen, but we'll be defending our Wensleydale crown, the championship again. All the farms that we own, all the land that we own is now going into organic conversion. So we want to produce organic fillings for the mattress as well, another string to our bow, another string to our sales bow, if you like. As well as growing the crops, which we believe are very environmentally friendly. We also are in middle tier stewardship scheme. So we're in a high tier stewardship scheme since we came here in 2009. We left that a couple of years ago to pursue our options, and now we're in a mid tier, as well as taking part in the environmental land management schemes set up as well. Okay.
So with the hemp processing line up here, not only do we use the hemp and flax fibre for the mattress production, what we've also tried to do is develop the fibre into other products. We've been working with a number of different companies, Indie Nature at the back, which I'm sure you'll go on later and explain what you Adaptivate, which you mentioned earlier with the plaster. So it's the dust from the processing that we use with those. And also, I don't know, Chimera is a big place. We have been doing a development program with Chimera, looking at spinning the our own hemp with British wool to make a yarn, which I've got a little sample here that's been done. So, sorry, I'll pass this round. So Chimera have been working in their spinning plant on blending hemp from here and British wool together to produce a yarn, which I've got a bit of a sample here. And then what we're doing is to the next level, we're weaving it, and then we've designed now our divan and headboard range to so it's going to be hemp and British wool. We're at the initial stages at this moment in time. I think this is about the only piece we've got woven. But typical Harrison Spinks fashion, we've got orders for about 7 or 8 beds now, and we're still in development stage. So this is just a small piece of the woven product. I think it's been finished. In fact, I don't even think it's gone through the finishing process yet. It's just purely the yarn that's been woven. And pass that around if you want as well. We've also been looking at hemp matting as well. So fortunate enough not to just produce the hemp and flax fibre, but we've got a non-wovens line down at Leeds as well, where we have got a needle punch line that can make matting for hemp pads, which can go for hanging basket liners, and also act as tree protectors as well for the tree limbs. Another little bow slider basically is just all the different awards and accreditations we've got over the last few years. As I say, we've got proud owners now of 3 King's Awards. We're ISO 14001 and 9001 credited, and we're also we've got accreditation from quite a few sustainability programs. And there's just a nice slide of one of our products taken in the field, and we are cut from a different cloth. Is it questions now or afterwards?
I think
You can squeeze a few questions in, if anyone's got any, that is.
What's the percentage for hemp and
on that? It is a 60% is a wool and 40% is hemp at this moment in time.
You're doing that with linen as well?
We are going to start looking at. We're growing a lot more flax this year than we have been. So we're going to look at. That's the next stage, is looking to see if we can do a flax range as well as a hemp range, or even blending all of them together. We're just at the initial stages this moment in time.
So I've just got one. What's the sort of main, if you like, wastage, carbon challenge in your production? Where's that sort of falling in, and who do you sort of engage with on that? Is it effluent treatments? Is it those sort of things, or is it at the processing production side, or is it, do you have anything like that that's a sort of challenge for you?
What, for carbon?
Well, not just waste in general, I would guess.
A lot of we're not lucky. The process waste yield is another word for it, a nicer word for it. We've put on the hemp processing plant a pulling line, side pull. So what we do is we refibre it, we put it back into fibre, and then we can reuse it back into the product or the clean. And we're also, over the next 12 to 18 months, looking at a regeneration project up at the farm, where we're looking at being able to clean end life materials to reprocess it back in fibre. Again, it's a 12 to 18 month plan, isn't it?
Right.
What do you see the potential market in terms of acres? Are you aware in terms of, how many acres could you stand if you put all of your product into your current production?
We do. So we overproduce straw, and then we convert straw into fibre for our mattress. So we actually overproduce for the mattress company. So it's external sales that we need to. 2 years ago, we grew over 1,000 acres of hemp alone, and that can produce on bang average yields of over 1,000 tons of straw. So it's not really the acreage isn't the problem from my side of the fence, if you like. We can cover that. It's the sales of fibre, which need to increase really.
So that's where we try to work with other companies, and now we can produce miles more than enough than what's required for our mattress production. Same with the for spinning for spinning into upholstery fabric. It's working with other companies now. We only run at this moment in time on a 1-shift basis, and it's capable of processing. We can do 24 tons of straw a week just on a 1-shift process at this moment in time. So we've got the capacity, the capacity and the potential to do much more.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, I think we can take other questions after as well.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you very much indeed. That's really, really good. Thank you. Yeah, well, it does get a bit. So we'll hear from you. Thank you very much. That's all right. So
Are the low videos?
they are managed, yeah. Who you are. That's you, isn't it? That's it, yes.
Morning, everybody. Hello, Sarah. Thank you very much for inviting us and have a chat about what we've been doing at Elson's. And I will touch on the CHC project. I've also got my colleague here, Adrian Haler, who's worked with me hand in glove on natural fibres for the last 3 or 4 years. It's been a journey. Okay, so opportunities and barriers in this space. Firstly, I just wanted to take you on a whistle stop of Elson Seeds quickly, because I'm aware that not everybody will know who we are. So we are 180 years old this year. We actually started, we are plant breeders, seed specialists, but we started live as a ropery in Spalding, making rope from hemp. So it's sort of come full circle. Anyway, so we are active, supplying 36 countries globally, in over 70 crops, 345 varieties of vegetables to salads to some fruit, herbs, diverse, wheat, barley, flax, hemp, all sorts. So we have 4, Adrian and I would say 5 main pillars to the business. So we have agriculture, so that's pretty much anything you can put through a combine or that you will forage, that you feed to an animal. Vegetables, Elson's have about 84% market share in the carrot business in the UK, so quite big. R&D, massive focus for us, so we are sought after and employed to do independent trials as well, various businesses and bodies, and actually Out of 120 staff that work for us, the majority of them work in R&D. So that kind of shows you the ethos and focus of our business. And we have a seed technology department as well, which more and more is going towards bio-based type seed treatments because we're losing chemistry. And then Adrian and I would say we have business development as well. That's about 5 years old as a department. It is our job to look at changes in agriculture, changes in other industries that might impact on what farmers do, what growers do, and what we might be looking to breed. So it can sound a bit fluffy, but one of our sole purposes as a business and the Keeling family who own Elsons, and the reason why, unlike other breeding businesses, we have a business development department, is that last statement there. Because if we are, as a race, going to do what we need to do, we're going to have to learn to do a lot more with a lot less. And plant breeding, really, we believe, can have an impact on that. So our goals, quality seed production, Liam will know. And I also wanted to say, actually, if we do have time later, Liam is hosting one of our CHC trials for flax this year. So we could go and have a look at the different varieties if you would like to. I think it's just over there. Yeah, it's not far. So this really plays into the biofibre supply chain as well. So yes, quality seed production, we know we need that. Technical marketing, strong genetics. As a business, we've had to very quickly start to understand what people further up the supply chain want and need, and that's what we're working towards, what we can pick out. You know, somebody might want, we might need to be more disease resistant in a certain part of the country, or it might be that fibre quality has to be stronger, or that they've got problems with retting, so is the variety that doesn't need to ret as long in the field, or looking at different things around the genetics. Greener credentials, which is kind of why we're all here, and a profitable supply chain. So as Helen mentioned earlier in the CHC project, there is that value chain piece, part of what we've been doing anyway as a business, looking at natural fibres and how we can enable that supply chain and how we can make it robust and long term, because that's what it needs to be. If we're going to make an investment in that genetics, then we need to understand the supply chain and what people need. So challenges to our industry, this will be the same for biofibres as it is for any other crop. Cost of production, be that in a field, running a tractor, how many passes you need to do, your inputs, so it could be like, you know, cost of fertilizer, it could be sprays, whatever else, but also cost of processing. So a decortication plant, that's, I think, are you on solar? No.
This year.
This year, I thought you was coming. So there's obviously a big energy cost there. We've looked at, not just as a business when you're looking at that value chain piece, we've looked at a decortication plant and the cost of running that, but also a scutching mill, which is long fibre production. Big cost there, big energy cost. And it's all got to stack up and work to make it sustainable. Just nipping back, so I was lucky enough to be invited to Westminster with Composites UK last spring, and one of the first questions I was asked, because we're growing fibre, we're talking about fibre, what about food security? Well, the crop's in the ground generally for 100 to 120 days with hemp. You're leaving the soil in a lot better condition. You're looking at higher yields. It's not going to have, it's in a rotation, you know, it's going to be every 3, 4, 5 years, however many other crops you've got in there. So it doesn't really have an impact, in my mind, on food security. So our challenges as breeders, weather, been a horrendous year. We are late planting this year, aren't we, Liam? And we've got to understand that from a variety point of view. So as breeders, you're often asked, are you breeding for climate change? No, because you have different weather each year and the varieties naturally adapt. So no, we don't breed for climate change. We're more mindful. So we're looking at, can we produce varieties with lower inputs? We're looking at nutrient use efficiency and so on. But varieties naturally adapt and change. Yield, we're getting an increased understanding of what genetically we need out of these crops, or we need to put into these new varieties to get the best yield. Pests and diseases, we don't see a lot at the moment, but as anything, when a crop is more widely grown, you'll see more pests and disease. So Lydia and I are in conversations about what we can do in terms of like a chemistry type project, agronomy project, bolt on to the CHC project, that's to kind of take the risk out for farmers, because if a big chemical company is not going to put the money into investing into new chemistry for these crops, because they're not very big, it's not enough room. But if we can do some trialing and testing independently and take the risk out, at least people will know what they can and can't put on a crop should they have a problem. And end market, we've already talked about, that's mainly about getting understanding. So I never ever thought in my years of trading grain and working with food products and vegetables and cereals and all the rest of it, that I would be stood in a room now and having meetings over the last couple of years with the likes of Ford UK and talking about car panels and insulation and building products. It is so exciting. And it will make a big difference to our economy, not just in terms of agriculture, I believe anyway, but also further up the supply chain as well. And more importantly, environmentally, in a way. So beautiful flowers there in the bottom right-hand corner, increased biodiversity, rotations on farm, and increased sustainability in terms of the environment, but also in terms of profitability in agriculture in general. Oh, and there's some flax being pulled up. I forgot that was a little video clip. But I will move on because I have got a proper video of this in a moment that Helen asked me to include here. So we're going to look around today, hopefully a bit later, the decortication plant. Liam, you cut that, don't you? Would you mow it?
Yeah, all right.
Mow it with a drum mower with that conditioner in. Flax, which Helen mentioned earlier, in Europe tends to be pulled with one of these machines. It's for long fibre, so flax on average gets between 100 to 120 centimetres high in a good year. And this is the type of flax material that's going to go into linen. So it's high-end or high-end composites. And I just think it's very aesthetically pleasing as a product, so I wanted to include it. We will, for the first time, so we brought a puller to the UK last year. For the first time this year, I think ever, we will be, hopefully, phytosanitary certificates pending, bringing a puller de-seeder to the UK to harvest our multiplication crops so that we will be able to take seed and fibre. I showed this a couple of weeks ago. We had a CHC meeting and I was very aware that the people in the room probably didn't know a lot about scutching, which again is for long fibre, really. That you will get remnants of short fibre out of, you know, when you are putting things through, putting flax through a scutching mill or hemp for that matter. But let's have a look at it. So flax tends to be down in the field retting at weather permitting between 3 and 6 weeks. And then you will end up with something that looks pretty grey and brown like that. And this process, this mechanisation hasn't really changed for an awful long time because it doesn't need to. It's fairly simple. It's not that different from what we'll see this afternoon, but it's just concentrating on longer fibre. This is actually, I think it's filmed with, so we work with breeders in Holland, Vanderbilt. We've worked with them for generations, I think 30 or 40 years of the business now on flax and linseed. And this is at their processing line. And then it is still traded like coffee. So you go and you feel the flax that you want and you get given a weight and everything else and it's bought like that. We'll move on. So the main challenges within this space, we have, thank you Amanda, overcome some of them this year with hemp. We've seen some changes. So hemp, you can now apply for your license the year before, which will be good, and you can now put the whole farm into your license rather than specific land parcels. as well, and you're licensed now for growing hemp will last 6 years rather than 3, which is a big step change and really helpful. The challenge is a supply chain network, which is kind of why we're here. And the infrastructure, which we talked about, investment, we talked about. Liam needs more avenues, more places to be able to sell his fibre. It's a great product. Everybody else just sort of needs to catch up, and a better understanding. And this, in terms of, I think, as a whole, where things come from and their impact on the environment, but also just a simple understanding of the general public of what a hemp plant looks like and what it is. But we will get there. And that is me. That is just to mention SHD, who couldn't be with us today, so we work very closely with them. That is a Mercedes, as you can see, and it is made from flax. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Heather. Food for thought. Thank you. That was really good. I think our next speaker is Jonathan. If you're able to join us, that would be great. And Jonathan works for a company called Fibre Extrusion Technology, based in Leeds.
So I have actually got an updated presentation, and I can switch that over quickly. Okay.
It's
Perfect, just a slide different from the one I had at the first one. Yeah, can I?
Is that right?
Yeah, just
Brilliant. There we go.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can. Is that easier? Or can I shout? Okay, I'll do a bit of both and see how I can work my way through. So while we're just getting all this set up, I'll do an introduction to FET and what we're trying to do and why I'm here. So my background is that I'm a chemist, so I have a PhD in sustainable chemistry. I've worked in the medical device sector for about 5 or 10 years. From there, I moved to FET, and I've been at FET for about 2 years. So the terms that we used previously, like sculpting and stuff like this, these are weird and wonderful terms that I'm learning, but it's really nice to bring multiple sectors together and see where we can work with each other. So I know you asked me not to put anything to do with cannabis on here, but the pun does make sense as we go forward through the presentation. So I'm going to be talking about weeding out a solution that might be something a little bit weird or wonderful compared to some of the stuff that has already been talked about today. So, yes, wonderful. So FET, we're based in Leeds, so West Yorkshire rather than I won't say main Yorkshire, but I mean North Yorkshire, which we are here. And I'm the R&D manager in a brand new building that's just about a little bit older than I am at FET, so about 2.5 years old. And we do 2 things at FET. The first is, and the primary thing we do is manufacture equipment for people to make their own fibres, primarily with non-natural sources. So that's things like polypropylene, polyesters. However, I would advocate that there's a lot of bio-based materials that can be extruded into fibres and get really high efficiency. So we're thinking like polylactic acid, polyglycolic acids. I won't go into that detail today, but more food for thought. Now, FET started off as a business with a focus on making R&D scale or pilot scale equipment. The reason behind this is that in textile industries, to be able to make, say, a small amount of yarn, or you want to test something new, typically a lot of our customers will say, right, we're going to use our smallest production line. I'm going to work at maybe a ton an hour. If you've done something wrong or your material's not quite right, a ton of material that ends up going in the bin is a huge waste. So FET focused on designing these smaller scale pieces of kit, still quite big, but much smaller scale pieces of kit, to be able to extrude material on a much smaller scale. So we work in the sort of 1 to 10 kilos per hour region. Still quite high, but it depends what your background is. Now, interestingly, alongside the pilot scale for textiles and commercial textile products, we found that we have a niche for the medical industry. So a lot of customers who are making very high value products want very low quantities of it and really have very tight specific requirements. And we found we hit that niche really nicely. So the line on the right hand side here is for making or for trialing making monofilaments and multi-filament materials that are often used in medical devices like sutures, wound dressings, or like suture buttressing, all these sorts of things. So like I said, a little bit of a different industry than has been spoken about earlier. So the reason why I'm here today is to talk about wet spinning, which might be some of you may have come across. I've heard people talk about viscose earlier. So viscose is made by wet spinning. And what you're doing here is you're taking cellulosic material, pulp, in most instances from the wood industry, but I don't see why it can't be from hemp waste. So not from the hemp fibre itself, but the leftover bits and pieces that you guys aren't using. In theory, and I've seen papers where people have done this, it just doesn't appear to be done at scale yet. So what you do is you take your pulp, dissolve it in a chemical bath that we can talk about in great detail later on. There's two routes for this. One is horrible for viscose, and lyocell, which is less horrible, but it's something, again, I can talk in more detail later. There's a couple of steps, but eventually what you end up with is a fibre of viscose or lyocell fibres, which can be used in, can be used in lots of different industries. Okay, so they can be used in textiles, in construction, in like clothing, lots of different areas. And this is a piece of equipment that we recently designed to be able to do this on a relatively small scale. So it allows you to do that R&D quality to de-risk the process before stepping larger. Similarly, if this will work, let's see. There we are. So the way we start off is you have a vessel in the center. Is actually working? Yes, it is. Vessel in the center. You look, putting your spin dope into this vessel. The materials you work with are usually quite highly viscous, so you need pressure and a bit of force to get it through. But eventually you end up with a material you can put into a coagulation solution and form a filament. So filaments look a little bit like this. This is a monofilament that we're producing at the moment. But it goes through a coagulation bath, then it's washed through various processes to remove the coagulation solution. And presently, as you can see, it's a nice artistic image, so it's got lots of images on it. So this is 2 pairs of heated go days, then dry the filament and remove the excess water or solution, and it will go into a winder at the very end. So this is one of my team, Ollie, who's doing the classic scientist bit of saying, look how fancy this piece of kit is. So really what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to offer an alternative approach that's something that might not have been thought about before or may have been discussed and then put to one side. That this is possible, and you can make lyocell and rayon fibres, viscose fibres, whatever you want to call them, quite readily, relatively close to hand. You know, we're only in Leeds. Now, the thing I was going to touch on is, yes, viscose and rayon and lyocell fibres can be used to make textiles, construction, biocomposites have already been spoken about earlier. However, something that hasn't been spoken about, I don't know is people aware of, but there's a material called oxidized regenerated cellulose that is sold by a company called Ethicon as a product called Surgicel. As you can see, it's basically lyocell fibres that have been put through an oxidization process, basically dipped through a solution and then knitted together to make this sort of material. The reason why I thought it's useful to you is look at the value of this product and the amount of material you're using. It's teeny tiny quantities and the value is absolutely bonkers. So it's just something to be aware of, that this exists, and it might be something you want to think about trying to make or have a go at making. The reason why it's so valuable is this oxidized regenerated cellulose is a hemostat. So if you've been shot, you stick this stuff on you and you will stop bleeding in 30 seconds. So that's what it's used for, and something you guys could potentially be making from your waste product from hemp. Just an idea, something to think about. Come and have a chat with me if you're interested afterwards. How it could fit into the supply chain is you currently have hemp farmers, hemp processors, making hemp fibres, doing what you'd normally do. The leftover cellulosic material, I don't know what you do with it currently. You might throw it away, you might put it back in the ground, who knows. But you could wet spin it into these rayon, viscose, lyocell fibres and continue to use those into the textile industry, making into lovely beds that we've been talking about previously. Or depending on what you want to do, you can oxidize them, knit them together and make medical products that are high value and potentially making a useful product out of your waste material. So that's me, and this is why we're weeding out a solution. So we are going from there. So that's me. If you want to have a chat, I'm going to be here for the rest of the day. And yeah, hopefully any questions, please let us know.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. That's really interesting.
Ciao.
Yeah, I think we've got time for a couple of questions.
Yeah, well, it's not so much a question, it's more to link what you just said with what Ed was saying. So 4 years ago, when I started to look at this, I realised that the only way there was going to be a sustainable industry was for the crop to be sustainable to grow. And the only way the crop's sustainable to grow is if we could help develop markets for every single bit of it. And this is a perfect example of we need to have markets for every single bit of it. The knowledge I'll give you is it's like a pig. You can only make profit growing pigs if you can sell them to the swing place. And Heather can talk to you for hours about this, but it's exactly the same with natural fibres. That's what we spent 4 years doing. Thank you for the work you're doing.
You're quite welcome.
An obvious question. I didn't realise how rare it played. Are you absolutely limited to the fibre part, or potentially can you not use waste from all components? Because I'm thinking if you're mashing it up anyway, then the shoot can go into that next as well, potentially.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's basically, I don't know anything about the hemp processing business apart from what I've Googled this morning. But I know you guys have waste material that you probably want to use. And if it's cellulosic, then in theory we can chuck it through and see what happens.
Does your extrusion process turn combustible fibres into non-combustible fibres? What's the end of life look like for those extruded textiles?
So do you mean the ones out, the wet spinning stuff, or do you mean the?
Whatever process you're putting it through, whatever chemicals are being added, does that mean that you're kind of synthesizing or making them non-combustible? Can they go in soil and nourish the soil web at the end of life?
I'm not 100% sure because that's not really where my knowledge base is, but I don't see, it's basically cellulosic fibre that's been broken down and then put back together without anything chemically changing. So you still got the sugars still being sugars, but they're long chains of sugars rather than cross-linked. So it should be compostable. I'm pretty sure that like viscose fibre should be compostable, but I'd have to look that up afterwards. Okay. Anything else?
So just to follow up to the same Heather, if you had over-retted or unretted, also you could use that. It doesn't matter if you divided up fibres.
I don't know what retted means.
So retting is literally when you go through a rotting.
Okay.
Where you break those sugars
that
are linking the fibres together. You need to do that once you pull fibres apart. But if you're going to stitch it all up together, presumably that doesn't matter.
I don't think so. So again, if I go.
You mentioned about the chemicals.
Yeah.
Is it something that concerning about the chemicals, or is it they say?
So if you're making viscose, to be able to process viscose, use carbon disulfide, which is a neurotoxic material. It's pretty horrible. If you ever go to a viscose plant, typically they're out in Asia, and you can usually smell them and see them from several miles away because of the amount of carbon or of sulfur dioxide that they produce. And the slightly better route from a sustainability point of view is the lyocell process. So it uses a material called NMMO. Please don't ask me what that stands for. It's I could probably write it down, but it'll take me a minute to think about it. So there's a company called Lenzing that historically patented that process, but it's now coming off patent. And to produce viscose fibres, Lenzing claim they've got up to 98% recyclability of that NMMO material. So basically none of it ends up in the fibre, or very, very small amounts of it ends up in the fibre. That's a much better way of making it, lyocell fibres. However, NMMO, if you're not careful with it, can undergo autocatalytic exothermic reactions. Basically, it can explode. So that's why our equipment is designed in such a way that it's ATEX rated, so it won't explode. So you have to be careful on the equipment production and your processing conditions, but that is the better route. There are a lot of people now who are looking at, well, typically universities, looking at using things called ionic liquids to be able to break down the material either with less NMMO or as an alternative material. But there's no front runner, as far as I'm aware, of something that's replacing lyocell as the next better route forward. But give it the next few years and we'll see what happens. These technologies are always something going forward. In fact, I know there's a business down in Nottingham called Again. One of the things they're focusing on is being able to separate out polycotton materials or like polymer and natural fibres from one another using an ionic liquid basement process. So you can then melt spin the polymer side of it back into PET or whatever fibres you want to use, and then wet spin the natural fibre into a new natural fibre. So there's all technology being developed as the years come forward. But if anyone's in R&D, then that might be something that the people here might want to explore and patent and have their own process and increase their revenue stream that way. As another thought. I hope that answers your question. We can have a further chat about it later if that would be also helpful. Anybody else?
Okay. No, thank you very much, Jonathan. That was really, really insightful.
Thank you.
Yes. Great. Okay. So, thank you. Excellent. So, our next speaker is just coming over. We've got Sam Bounder from Innovators. Very good to see you again, Sam. It's been all 3 days. Yeah. Sam was up at our place at BDC on Friday last week installing a new product.
Yeah.
But I don't want to steal the thunder. Yeah. So anyway, good. So I'll hand you over to Sam. Thank you.
Well, easy. What's your favourite quality of industrial hemp?
God, yeah, it's the breathability.
Breathability.
Yeah.
Any advance on breathability? Anybody else? You're in a room full of hemp enthusiasts. I've got to ask the question. Probably some carbon. I don't know what you go with carbon, but soil health, all that sort of good stuff. Soil health. Yeah, interesting. Mine is the fact that hemp can fly. Did you know? Hemp can fly. Hopefully, you guys will catch. Have a look at these.
Oh, it bounces as well.
Oh, it's a good one. Yes, excellent. Let's see if it works. Yeah,
Right, there we
Excellent.
and the short range. There we go. Anybody there with this one? No, we'll just send this one around. Something to touch and feel while we talk about all this good stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, good morning all. I'll be quick. I think it's coffee next, is it? And I'm Sam from Innovators. We manufacture UK grown and made industrial hemp insulation and a few other things. I'll whiz through this and give you a sense of an example or a case study of one of the end uses for this incredible fibre. So we make high performance technical insulation for buildings of any type. As Hannah said, brilliant breathability, circularity, reprocessable, carbon capturing material of the future. And it's loved by installers across the nation now. It's so lovely to work with. We get feedback constantly that people are really enjoying working with it. It's a really quick, soft and healthy material. Which people didn't realise they can build with. Now we're making it available at an industrial scale. It's really quite a significant moment because we've just achieved the very first British Board of Agriculture certificate for an industrial hemp installation in the UK, which is fantastic. And that opens it up to the retrofit world, people who need Trustmark or government-funded programs that require that sort of quality control, or the bigger house builders who have got to have a mortgage put onto these buildings at the end of the day, and therefore need insurance, so on and so forth. And that is really vital. So it's been a huge process of taking Yorkshire's finest industrial hemp from East Yorkshire Hemp and Harris and Spinks, and bringing it to the Scottish borders to manufacture it into installation. So really fantastic moment in time. When we show this sort of slide, people around the country have got no idea that the hemp grows to this sort of height, or that it's a commercial crop, that it's a good agricultural rotation crop. Obviously, preaching to the converted here, but absolutely fantastic. And the data capture that's going on now with the study led by NIAB and now some others is absolutely vital, because we need to be able to compete with this last 100-year petrochemical blip. And we need all the data we can to compete with that. Because fundamentally we're part of a just transition. This is the good stuff, the fibre that we need, one of the co-products that Adrian is talking about. And this is John, one of our first employees on the site that we've started up, the Indian mill in the borders, who used to work in manufacturing, but now is making technical installation along with all the crew that we've recruited there. It's beautiful stuff coming off the background. And as a sneak peek inside the Indian mill, some of the infrastructure that doesn't exist in this country, that's been around in Europe for the last 20 years, and we're only just really catching up. And we need the markets to sustain this. So this is a dedicated insulation facility. So we haven't been doing some of the other natural fibre production, but we are focused on insulation. You'll spot the apparatus in the background. I think John Clay told us to buy that. Pretty much, he said, "Oh yeah, that's good. Go and get that." So we've got an air lay line with a thermal bonding oven, just the right sort of spec to be able to make this sort of quality of insulation for buildings with a really high loft. And that would be a site. I've done 1001 comparative within 18 months of turning on the line. So it's been a hell of a journey putting all those bits and pieces in place that didn't exist. And that's us in the beautiful Scottish borders. I'm sorry, it's not Yorkshire, it really is. My grandparents are all in New York. But borders has got a good textile heritage as well. And what we're finding is around the world that you know I think there were a dozen Tatum's lines in that region 20 years ago, and they're all now in China. Pretty much. Where's one down? Yeah, I'm surprised you're here, not over there. So yeah, hopefully we can repopulate with more textiles lines. But this is us down here. We took on a manufacturing facility that just lost 100 jobs to Brazil the year before. They were manufacturing high quality blades, bandsaw blades, millions of miles of it every single year, and all those jobs went. All the equipment got decommissioned and went. So it's good for us. We've got a space, but that's exactly what we were looking for. Is how do we become part of that transition? And the rural economy around it is great. So again, Yorkshire farms are helping to inform Borders farmers as to how to get this crop going again. And here we are. Anybody shop at MKM for your building products? Yeah. So what do you think it takes to get your name in that list? It takes about 10 million quid and about 8 years of pain, suffering, and love and tears and all that sort of stuff, and a whole load of backing. So hugely grateful to the Scottish National Investment Bank, Zero Waste Scotland, and South Scotland Enterprise, the consortium that really put the money into establish the infrastructure, and also all the other sort of innovation funding through ecosystem in Scotland has been fantastic to us. But we are a UK company. So the innovation funding has been great. The infrastructure funding has been great. It's taken time to get that in place. Now we need the next bit, the market pull, to really make sure that this is super viable. We've established distribution, so we're across specialist distributors and also regional and national distribution as well as merchants like MKM, starting to help to get people at all levels of the construction supply chain comfortable that this material is really excellent for their buildings of all types, those retrofit or new build. And again, we have to do all that work, technical advisory, through making sure we're out there on the materials libraries, that sort of thing, because the world just doesn't help. We are collaborators with the Natural Fibre Insulation Group, with the Alliance for Sustainable Building Products. Similar to this group here, we're very much focused on building. So there may be some really good alliances to build across the two organisations. As a quick summary of Europe, there are many folks working with wood fibre, hemp fibre across Europe. We're in the UK, pretty much Yorkshire and now the Borders, we're the only games in town. Really. So between us, it's our job to really get this industry going. As you know, construction for us, this was our impact mission, was to get that changed. Those stats may have changed slightly in the last few years. That was 2017, but some pretty horrific impacts on the planet in construction. So if we can use industrial hemp and other natural fibres, we can get that changed around. Renewable resource, net carbon storage, biogenic carbon capture, we'll talk about in a second. And of course, it's reprocessable to get zero waste at the end of life, although it's super durable. So, you know, end of life is actually quite a long time away, 55, 50, 100 years. People often say to us, can you grow hemp in Scotland? And yes, you absolutely can. This is Fife on a lovely sunny day in Scotland. That was the first crops that have been planted in Scotland, I believe, in terms of industrial hemp, growing up to 10 feet tall in about 80 years. We're just doing it at the Borders this summer, so you're all welcome to come to our next Biofibre group, come and see it at the Borders. And of course, scope 3, is everybody counting their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions nowadays in your impact metrics? Yeah, if you're not, that is going to become the currency. We are going to all have to do that much more in the next few years. So the neat thing about what we sell is it's nicely in a pack. You can weigh it, you can measure it, it's by square meter or what have you. And we've had a life cycle analysis just redone. Now the production line is on, we can measure all the energy use. And we now know that it is a net negative 0.79 kilos of CO2 per kilogram equivalent. So that's 790 grams of carbon captured into our products for every kilo of product going out the door, cradle to gate. And that is because of the hemp, because of that carbon capture and sequestration while it's in the fields. So it's a supply chain. We have to pass it all the way through. So the end users, the housing developers, the retrofit coordinators know that they are using lower embodied carbon materials when they are changing their building specifications. And that can become really quite huge. When you're doing a loft or something like that, you're looking at about half a ton of carbon captured into that loft. Or if you're talking about carbon avoided, imagine the carbon emitted from a glass wall or a rock wall roll, something like that that's really been heated up using blast furnaces, and a lot of emissions and so on. When you're looking at carbon capture, you can avoid an awful lot more emissions. So that's a quick look at the LCA. That's the biogenic carbon captured by the hemp, and the carbon emitted through our process from on-farm carbon in the blue, haulage and transport in the orange, our processing in the green, and then a little bit more haulage on top, getting it to the customer. So when you add those two together, you net negative cradle to gate. That's just to look at some of the other hemp producers across Europe. So we're doing all right, we're about on track, but if we all get renewable energy going and so on, we keep improving that embodied carbon. So I don't know if these slides are going to be available, but some other metrics there. But hopefully we're helping people to figure out how they use their building to store carbon, how they can lower their own embodied carbon when they build it in the first place, let alone the operational carbon of the building that they're helping to save by insulating it really well before they stick it in, keep on getting it too. So the good thing is, I'll spin through this quite quickly because I know copper's coming, but FlexiPacks is what we started with. They can be used flexibly across the building, which we believe in all sorts of applications, from your roof to your floors to your walls. And so our architectural team supports builders from new build to retrofit, to look at the material and how best to use it in their buildings. We do a lot of training with installers, so you can become an Innovator installer. You fancy it's a career change, it's really very fun. You get to go around and improve buildings, but work with this lovely material all day long. We've been passing all the various British standard tests as well. So again, looking at how industrial hemp stacks up. And the British Board of Agriculture have been on a huge journey learning about this fibre and how it performs and making sure that it does do what it's supposed to do. So the UCAS lab tests and so on all stacking up. People often ask about fire. We test every single batch for reactions fire, and natural fibres are fantastic. They don't ignite, they sort of smoulder very, very slowly and then often extinguish as well. So it's a Euroclass E rating, which is basically fine for any residential building up to 11 metres in Scotland, 18 metres in England, depending on your building regulations. But people often don't talk about it's got the best rating for smoke in terms of volume, and no flaming droplets like you get with some of the petrochemical instruments as well. So really quite lovely. And often fire engineers, we had one bounce up to us at an event saying, great, I'm so glad this exists. So we started saying, we can put a bit more chemicals in and get the fire rating up. And she said, please don't. We'd rather that it was natural, no VOC, and that's good enough fire rating for us. And acoustics as well. Industrial hemp, as well as being able to fly, is fantastic for capturing noise as well. Would you believe in partition walls or floors, you only need 50 millimeters of indigo, where you would need about 100 millimeters of glass wool. So that will help us compete on price point to get a 40 decibel reduction in sound. We've got a few innovations coming on that front as well, blending hemp fibres with cotton and jute as well. But the cotton blend hopefully will be really good for our next indie silence range, which performs even better. And a huge thank you to the early adopters who have been swapping and really starting to test and try our materials. They've helped us learn the lessons of being able to supply all sorts of building projects. I'm going to count Biorenewables Development Centre as one of our early adopters now, who've just used the first ceiling pad with SIG, which we'll see in a minute. And this is a retrofit going on in Glasgow, deep retrofit. And again, that's friction fit as well. So the durability of the hemp squeezing in between the joists is absolutely perfect, and it means you can go quite quickly and minimize no air gaps in your thermal bridging in your building. We've also started to work with a lot more partners as well. So we're putting Nature inside of other people's products and systems for all sorts of applications. The ceiling pad being one idea, other wall systems, floor systems, and loft systems as well. And we've been innovating to learn what can this equipment do, testing the parameters. So thank you to some of the partners that are in the group as well that helped us on that journey. We've got some exciting things coming. That's a quick sneak peek of the ceiling pad application that's just gone in the loft at the Biorenewables Centre. So if you do have time this afternoon to go back, I think having a few people a little. I don't know if you're going to get people to have to put some in if you need to improve. But yeah, huge thanks to SLG and Mayclass for looking at their range of existing products and saying, what can we swap out here with bio-based materials? So it's coming, change is coming. People are liking working with this sort of fibre, and fundamentally, we have a plan to school. We don't have time. So we've got to go quicker. And we need now the government and regulation on both the farming side and on the market side to get this sort of material adopted so the whole supply chain can work. Anyway, that's me on the soapbox. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Sam. I think we've got time for a few questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the life expectancy of your loft installation?
It's a really good question. Yes. There are, in Europe, they've been building with it for 20 years, and it's still in buildings every building. There are buildings with hemp installation 100 years ago. Scotland, I haven't seen it yet, but apparently there are. So we've done accelerated final tests in a chamber as well, and no degradation in terms of the really high heat and humidity. So at the minute, we are just looking at launching our sort of lifetime guarantee product. Most of the lifetime sort of guarantees around 25 years. We're thinking of 50 though, has been actually really meaningful for industrial. So any guidance on that, we'd much appreciate before we you have 50, 40, 60. Oh, you got a question. Well, you're the expert in the room.
I just also a question for we mentioned and I just think to say one's on and to get that PBA information. It's fantastic. So you need to be putting your head above the parapet and being right into the industry is great.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fantastic. But a huge shout out to the guys, particularly Scott, Alex, Graham, all those guys who are back at the mill even now, working hard. But yeah, it's a hell of a thing. So yeah, thank you for your support. Yeah. So
how is the competitiveness of products compared to industry norms?
Fantastic.
Is it competitive or is it so expensive?
Yeah, really, really good question. So to answer that one, it's absolutely competitive. So on the thermal performance, it's almost a like for like with glass walls and rock walls, that kind of thing. They're often just still a little bit better, very little bit better, but still within the same range in terms of thermal performance. It can't compete with petrochemical foams like PIR on thermal performance. They're just better. You need a lot thinner material with those. On price points, it does beat those PIR boards, so it's cheaper than those. But it tends to be more expensive than the glass walls, particularly in a loft where you've got a glass wall roll, which is very, very light, less dense, and compresses to nothing. So they save a lot on haulage. So when you put our material into a loft, it's the wrong comparison. So we're working on lower density products, all of that kind of thing. We're innovating to try and get that density down, make sure we've got something that's more comparable for each application. On acoustic products, we start winning. We start getting almost price point equivalent, or within 10% to 20% of glass wool acoustic partition or something like that. So we're really starting to see the price point spots where we can compete. If we can get people to swap their designs though, if you're just changing one product into a wall design, we might not be able to win in terms of that with a glass wall or a rock wall that performs better on thermals, for example. If you change your wall design to be like an indie breed system, then actually you can do it within the same footprint, just by using our high density boards as well as the bats. So instead of just one product, you change the full design, you get a breathable carbon capturing wall within the same footprint and price point. So that's the game, is to get people on that journey, and every house builder has to test and try and figure out how it works in the whole design. So we're almost there, is the answer. We can't compete on fire, for example. So anything that needs an A1 fire rating or a B fire rating, we can't do yet. We do have some secret sauce coming, but we'll see what we can do. So it's there are lots of different materials needed for any building, and so we're finding the spaces where we really do compete, and we're trying to focus.
So, when people see property trials, it's interesting because the feedback you have when installers try the product. I was just taking last time we came up, you were basically saying that installers are finding that their colleagues were delighted because it's not toxic to handle. It's making a massive difference in how fast they could go and how cheaply they could go, because PEE was almost not required.
Yeah, that's right, exactly right. And for different applications, different jobs. For some jobs where it's, if they were, for example, against a PIR board, they have to order a lot more because they're having to cut it really to shape the size, and you end up with big air gaps you've got to then fill. We're going a lot quicker on jobs like that. In the lofts, it was about there was labour saving and time saving, not having to put all the PPE on, you're not getting the itchy, scratchy feeling at the end of the day, all of that kind of stuff. If anybody's had a fun experience with the glass walls type stuff in a loft. But it's slightly bulkier. So so lifting our stuff into a loft is slightly bulkier than a smaller roll. But once people get used to the sort of jangering of putting the bats in instead of laying out a roll, they start to speed up on that as well. So it's about the same on a loft. And then much quicker in some of the pitched roof, where, like you saw there, just a friction fit means that it goes in quickly. You don't need to use a net or a string or a batten or anything to hold it in place. It just goes in and holds itself. So absolutely, it's a really quick fit. Fast friction. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, just working from the construction side, I work for the construction business, and I can really reflect with the statement you said at the end about lobbying local authority and government being so important. From our side, like many industries, we're trapped in this competitive tendering environment, race to the bottom.
Yeah.
And it really gets in the way of making great sustainable choices in whatever approach we take to build.
Yeah.
We've been able to use hemp products at Salford Cathedral recently, where we're trying to help them on this journey to be the first net zero cathedral with the restoration project that we're undertaking, ground source heat pumps, etc. All the things coming into it, including insulation of their loft spaces. But it comes from a sort of specific vision. A lot of the time when we're engaged in local authority frameworks and contracts, it's that competitive pricing that's not there. And I'm really interested in what work you're doing in your areas with local authorities and frameworks, and trying to bolster that lobbying to, as you rightly said, make this not so much a choice, but far more of a direction that you have to go.
Well, we could absolutely have a conversation.
Yeah, and I'll help you.
We all need to go together. Don't we?
Yeah,
That's the thing. And I'm trying to track down all the procurement people. We could just insert a row into the procurement frameworks. It just says the natural fibre price point is whatever it might be, 30, 40, 50% more than a glass fibre. And if they can just do that, and then people can actually specify the material they need, the breathability of the carbon, not just for price point or for basic, but for operational performance. So we've been pushing to an extent, certainly regionally in Scotland, where we've got a bit of an open door to the local authorities there, and national government as well, to see if we can get the devolved government to take action. They've just been consulting recently on the heating buildings bill up there. But we need more effort, so we haven't done enough yet. But, so more to come. Yeah.
Right. One more question.
Yeah, I'm just interested in the breakdown of your carbon footprint. Obviously, agriculture is the biggest chunk. Are you, firstly, do you know the breakdown of what's the carbon footprint?
Yeah.
I guess it's more imagine. But are you working with your growers to look at more regenerative practices, direct drilling, to reduce that carbon footprint?
Absolutely, yes. So some of them are right behind me, and the other guys, don't think next year today.
No.
So Egypt. So the conversation's ongoing. That was mapping literally the diesel in the tractor, you know, everything, fertilizer, the energy usage of the product process. So that's pretty accurately mapped, and we're going to keep doing that. So the more we swap things out for renewable energy sources, the better we can get it, basically. And then that changes depending on how much processing you're doing. So if you're not using just the fibres, you might be able to save a bit of energy as well there. So yeah, it's about working together. So it's good, we've got good relationships. See what we can do to decrease that.
What do you do with the, presumably you're using the fibre, or mainly the fibre in the product, so what do you do with the byproduct?
We don't buy the fibre, we're just a customer. So we just buy the fibre.
Okay,
That's right.
fine,
Yeah.
okay, makes sense.
But yeah, if you do have the shear or the herd, then absolutely you could use that in hempcrete. I think UK hempcrete maybe here already, but hempcrete blocks, that kind of thing. The Adaptivate breather plaster, it's fantastic. Again, a breathable render, absolutely great to use. So in terms of, there are construction outlets for it as well as anything else. We're looking at high density boards that would use more of the whole plant as well, and give a different part of the wall build up too. So yeah, lots of things we could do. Yeah.
Right,
Very good.
brilliant.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very much, Sam.
Cool.
Really brilliant. Thank you.